Hey there, this is Jim from Trek World, and I have a question for you. What do Dan Curtis, Bubblegum, and vending machines have in common with Star Trek? Not sure? Join me after the break. As a reminder, if there are items in this video that you are interested in purchasing, there will be affiliate links that you can find in the description. Additionally, please consider supporting this channel. The easiest way to do so is to press the join button on any video. For a mere 99 cents a month, it will get you access to private community messages, prioritized response to comment, exclusive live streams, and access to videos that have not been released yet to the public. The Dan Curtis giveaways are a unique and collectible piece of Star Trek history. These mini comics were printed in 1974. They're approximately 6 by 3 inches and 22 pages long. They were intended to be included in vending machines where they've been rolled up, as well as being distributed with Bubblegum trading cards. Now, that's all well and good, Jim, but Dan Curtis, that's not Star Trek. Dan Curtis is Dark Shadows and Kolchak and the Winds of War, right? Trilogy of Terror? Yes, he was that and all more. If you actually check my sister channel, Made for TV, I got a couple of videos there on all of that stuff for you to discuss. However, the name Dan Curtis Giveaways comes from the first issue in this series, which was a reprint of the Dark Shadows comic book. That comic was copyrighted by Dan Curtis. And although he had nothing to do with the other 8 comics that were to be released in the series, because of that initial copyright on the initial first one, the name stayed for the remainder of the series. And pretty much right from the beginning, it was recognized that they were going to be collectibles. I think the earliest Overstreet Collectibles guide that I found it listed in was 1977, and they were already being tracked at that point as comic book giveaways. Now, in addition to Star Trek and Dark Shadows, it also covered things like The Twilight Zone, Ripley's Believe It or Not, and Tor, which was a comic book I completely forgot even existed until I saw the artwork for it and remembered seeing it on the comic book stands at the local drugstore when I was a kid. Now, today, these collectibles are considered to be fairly important collectibles. Now, you're not going to retire on them, but depending on their condition and how many of them you have together as a set, they can be worth anywhere from $5 to $85, with 85 being on the insanity end, obviously. There's a link in this description for you to go in and pick them up. I think I paid maybe $5, $6 a piece for them. The true holy grail, though, is to find the complete set of 9 in like near mint conditions. Very, very difficult to do because any of them that went into the vending machines would probably not be in near mint condition today. These would have to be limited to the ones that were distributed as part of the Bubblegum card trading program that they were setting up. Like many things from Gen 1, they are things that you and I probably never even thought of until you saw the image just a few moments ago. When I saw the first photograph of these that I stumbled across like a month ago, the memory, struck me like the eureka moment that everybody has when they realize something. I remembered them vividly, but for whatever reason, I never really gave them any thought whatsoever after the 1970s. I don't know what happened to mine. I don't even remember where I got it or how it disappeared. So finding something like this that triggers a childhood memory and a childhood association that catches you off guard makes this a pretty sweet thing to discover, at least for those of us in Gen 1. This is the only kind of stuff we ever got. Now, in addition, obviously, to the Star Trek ones, the Dark Shadows one being number 1 in the series is probably the most collectible comic in this set of 9. And while the Star Trek comics probably had a greater demand than the Dark Shadows comic did, Star Trek fans, even Gen 1 folks all the way back then, they tended to preserve these things. So as a result, you'll probably find more Star Trek ones than you will the Dark Shadows ones. The real scarce ones are like the last 3 that were ever made because they weren't from a television property. Dr. Spectre was one of them. Dagar was another. And the last one was Grimm's Ghost Stories. These guys had a smaller print run, and the distribution was not quite as widespread as the ones that were tied specifically to television properties. As